Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner coming to you with another program today. And today is Juneteenth. So I thought we would do a very simple bangle with all of the Juneteenth colors, just because why not? I think it'll be fun. So we're going to be using seed beads, and we're going to be using the colors red, black, green, and yellow. We're going to be using memory wire. I've got silver memory wire and these little gold um, connectors that we're going to use to link two strands of memory wire together to make a mini cuff. So that's what we're going to do today. You're going to need 20 gauge wire because I'm going to make some little cage dangles to go on to dangle from our memory wire bracelet. You know, we have to do some wire wrapping. I mean, so we're going to use 20 gauge wire for that. We're going to use two circles of memory wire. And your usual tools, your round nose pliers, the barrels are round all the way around. It starts larger at the bottom, which is the hilt of the plier, and gets gradually smaller towards the tip. Then you're going to use your square nose pliers. They're slightly rounded on the outside, but flat on the inside, and they're also tapered, larger from the bottom and smaller at the tip, and a pair of cutters, just regular cutters that we would use to cut the wire for our dangles. And then for this, we do need a pair of memory wire cutters. Um, I'm going to go ahead and cut the memory wire for you so that you don't have to worry about that part, hopefully. But if you're using memory wire a lot, I would suggest that you invest in a pair of memory wire cutters because that it's tempered steel and it could really, really damage your pliers if you try to use regular pliers to cut memory wire. So that's probably one of the only things that I advocate other than the three usual pliers that you use to get, because I'm trying to keep this on a very minimal supply level. There are all kinds of other things out there that you can get if you want to do something different with your wire, but I'm sticking with the basics. So again, you're going to need your memory wire, your 20 gauge wire, your basic tools, and a ruler to measure everything out. That is it. Oh, and I'm using a bead board, and I'll show you why when we get down here to the mat in just a minute. Okay, so I have a bead board here. This is really great for laying out your pattern if you have a particular pattern that you're using, that so that you can see what beads you want to use next when you're putting them on your wire. So I thought I'd use that today. Um, okay, so what I need is a piece of memory wire. And when the memory wire, you want it overlapping somewhat, because by the time you finish putting your beads on, making your loops on the end, it will open out a little bit, and you don't want it to be too much of a gap in between. So I've got a piece of memory wire here with an overlapping of about an inch and a quarter. And I'm going to go ahead and make a loop. And the way I'm going to do that is to grab my round nose pliers right here on one end of my memory wire. I'm going to put the memory wire in between my pliers. I'm going to slide it down about a third of the way down my pliers. I don't need too large a loop. So I'm going to make sure that my wire, get that in there. I'll go ahead and get it in and then straighten it out later. What you want to make sure is that your wire is going straight down. The circles are going down. The pliers are horizontal and the wire is vertical. You don't want it over to the side like this or anything, because you want the curve of your loop to go in to follow the curve of the bracelet. So I've got my wire in here about a third of the way down my pliers. I'm going to scoot it back until the tip is completely covered by the pliers and not sticking out the other side. I'm going to hold on to my wire nice and tight. And notice I'm close to the pliers. I'm not down here trying to make a loop, because if you are, you don't have as much um, leverage, and you can't hold it as well. So I've got my wire in my pliers. I'm going to take my plier hand. I'm going to give it a good strong turn while I'm holding onto the wire so it won't move. Nice small turn. Then without shifting the wire, I'm going to open the pliers up, reposition them until the pliers are horizontal on top of the wire again. Give it another turn, open, reposition, and I'm going to keep doing that until I have a loop. And the loop will be when the tip is touching the rest of my wire, just like that. Okay, and I've already got a loop in this one. So now I'm going to start stringing on my beads. So I've got a little bit of an order here: red, black, green, and yellow, red, black, green, and yellow. Let me show you that. So that I can just start from my right and work towards my left to get everything on my pliers. Move that out of the way so there's not so much for you to look at. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and start stringing my beads on. And you, by the way, don't have to do this in any particular order. You can string these on any way you want. You can mix them all up. You can do whatever way you want to do it. But I'm going with 2 sets of 8 before I put on one of my little spacer bars. So 2 sets of whatever order you want your beads in is the way you want to start. It's easy for me to see my 2 sets of 8 because I know they always start with red. So once I have 2 sets of red and 2 sets of yellow at the end, I know I'm ready to put my little spacer bar on. All right, so let's get that on there. And my yellow ones. And now I'm ready to put my spacer bar on. Now, my spacer has 3 holes in it. We're only going to be using the 2 on each side. So I'm going to slide it in one of my little holes, the one on whatever the furthest side is. And then I'm going to continue. Now for my second set of beads, I'm going to do 4 sets of red, black, green, and yellow. So 4 sets of 8. I start with 2 sets of 8, add a spacer bar, and then 4 sets of 8, and I'm going to add a second spacer bar. Let me go ahead and get those on. In fact, just to save you from having to sit here and watch me put these on, I'm going to put them on camera, and then I will come back and show you how to get the next spacer bar on and then continue. So I will be back in just a moment. Okay, so I've got my center section of my beads on, which is 4 sets of 8. I'm going to grab the second spacer bar and slide that on one side, one of the furthest sides of my bar. And then I'm going to continue putting on my beads in the order that you would like. Hey, what's that? Heard something bounce. Oh, I've got a green one that found its way out somehow. Get back in there. Okay. That's why it's sometimes good to have a board. Okay. Get these last two sets on here. Sorry about the radio silence. I am concentrating. It's really funny when I'm in a class and it's like suddenly there's no sound in the room. You would think that the class was empty. That's because everybody's concentrating on their work, which I just love. Two more colors, two more beads. All right. And there is one. Good. There's one full circle. So now what I need to do is cut. So you are going to need to cut. I'm going to cut down to about 1/2 inch. Now, when you cut this, you do not have to slam these together because look at what happens if I pull really tight. See if it'll work. It'll do it. It kind of makes your I think you can see that. See how that's kind of popping? I don't want it to be so tight that it loses shape. So what I'm going to do is keep it nice and loose, give myself 1/2 inch. That'll allow my beads to still spin around a little bit and not be so close that they are at risk of breaking because these are glass. So you don't want to strain them too much. Oh, I put that down. So now you're going to cut about 1/2 inch from the end. And I'm going to hold on to the tail of this so it doesn't go flying across the room when I cut it. Then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers. I'm going to make a loop on the other side, just like I did the first side. Go down about 1/3 of the way down my pliers. Put that tip in there. Make sure it's not sticking out the back of my pliers. And make a loop. Just give it one good turn. Holding on, notice how my thumb is on top of the wire and the beads, and my forefinger is under the wire so that I have control. Open my pliers without shifting the wire. Reposition the pliers until they're horizontal on top of the wire. Give it another nice little turn. Then open again. Turn it again. And keep doing that until the little tip touches the rest of the wire. And I have a loop. There we go. And mine got a little out of whack here. So it's kind of over to the side instead of touching the rest of the wire. So I'm just going to shift that little tip over until it's resting against the rest of the wire. So that is my first bangle with my little spacer sticking out on the side. So now I'm going to do the second bangle. I've already done the loop on that one. So now I'm just going to start filling in the beads. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. Then I'll come back and show you how to link it up with the spacer bead on the first loop. And I will be right back in just a moment. Okay, I've got my first two sets of 8 on. So I'm going to grab my memory wire for my first loop, and I'm going to add this second loop to it. Now, you can match it up so that all the colors are the same on each of your loops like that. Or I think I'm going to flip it over and have it going backwards on one way on one and one way on the other, just because that's what I want to do. That's all. That's just what I want to do. Now, so in order to connect the second set of loops with the first set, I just need to slide my little wire inside that second or that last link that's on the opposite side of the first one. Back that up so you can see. So there's my first one is right there in the first loop. The second loop is going to go in the last link on my little bar. And then I'm just going to roll it around. Until it matches up with the first set of 8 on the first loop, just like that. Then I'm going to continue to put my beads on. Okay. And yes, you're going to have to deal with the first one down there. Going, you're ignoring me, and you're just putting beads on the second one. And I'm here looking all pretty and ready to go. What about me? What about me? What about me? I give I give my little beads and my wire voices to speak. I should make it animated to entertain you while I'm entertaining myself. Okay, so I've got my first little segment of section of 8 on, second section of 8 going on. I think I'm gonna finish the center section off camera and then come back and show you how to attach it to my first set of rings and my second spacer so that you don't have to sit here and watch me just put beads on. That's got to be boring. So I'll be back in just a moment. Be right back. Okay, my second segment of my second ring is done. I've got my little 4 sections of 8, and I'm going to add this to the link, the spacer on the other wire. So I'm just going to slide that right there in the last loop on my spacer bar. Pull that around like so. And I'm going to finish filling out my wire with whatever your choice of pattern is. Okay. I've just got 2 more segments of 8 to do. Get those on there. This is really, really coming out nice. Let's see. Oh, you know what? It just occurred to me. I have a lot of light on here. Let's turn a little more light on. There we go. I hope we could see everything before. There we go. My last section of 8. 2, 4, 6, and 8. Get on there. Get on there. Get on there. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my memory wire pliers and I'm going to cut that down to about 1/2 inch. All right, I'm looking at a hangnail that's bugging me. I don't want you to have to see it, but I think you're just going to have to look at it until I get off of here and can take care of it. So Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this down to 1/2 inch. Make sure, let's get this all lined up here. See what it looks like. Yes. And my 2 segments. Okay, so let's cut this last wire down to about 1/2 inch with the memory wire cutters. Cut that off. Holding on to this tip here so that it doesn't glide away from me. There we go. And grab my round nose pliers and make a loop, sliding the wire in between my pliers down about 1/3 of the way down my pliers. Check to make sure that that tip's not sticking out. And let's make our loop just like we did on the others. Nice. There we go. So there are my 2 nice little rows. And now I don't want this kind of flopping around. So what I'm going to do is grab a piece of my 20 gauge wire. Just a little piece. Doesn't need to be too much. Straighten that out a bit. If you end up with crinkled wire, I always take my pliers and just straighten it out. And you can get those straighteners. I know some people do that, but again, I don't want to advocate for you buying a whole lot of things that you may not need, no matter how helpful they can be. If you want to buy them, that of course is up to you, but I frankly just use my pliers and my fingers. That helps warm them up, warm the wire up, and it straightens it out at the same time. So all I need is about 1 inch of wire, because I'm just going to thread something through these 2 ends to keep it from flip-flopping all over the place. So I'm going to just cut about 1 inch of wire. Just going to eyeball it, one for each side. Okay. I'm going to make a little loop just big enough so that it fits on the loop that's there, but it's not going to slide through, because it's going to go right in here. And this is why it's very important to make sure this might not be a full inch. I think I need a little bit more wire. It's very important to make sure that your loops are closed, because you don't want anything to slide out or off of it. Helps if I use my cutters to cut the wire. Give myself a good inch. That looks more like it. That other little piece I can use for something else. All right, I'm going to make a loop, and I'm going to make it the same size as the ones that I made on the end of my memory wire. So I'm going to slide down about 1/3 of the way down my pliers, just like I've been doing. Going to make my little loop on one end, just rotating until I have the tip touching the rest of the wire, like so. Then I'm going to bend this back so that it's not just leaning over here to the side. I'm going to bend it back so that it's centered, my loop is centered over the rest of the wire, like a little lollipop. Then I'm going to slide the non-looped end into my other loops that are on one end of my memory wire. Then I'm going to cut the other side down to 1/2 inch. Really? Come on. Slide that back in there. Stay put. Then I'm going to cut the non-looped side down to that little straight edge. I'm going to cut it down to 1/2 inch and make another loop. There we go. Cut that down. You better hold on to it, otherwise it's just going to fall back out. You got to hold on to everything. Hold on to that tip, hold on to the loop on the other side, or it's going to drop right out. And let's make another loop. Grab my round nose pliers, slide my wire down a third of the way down my pliers again, and make my loop going in the same direction as the first one. And close that up. There we go. Now, you can put this on the inside, but you don't have to. What you can do is, I really want it on the outside of my loops. Now, it's very important, again, that I make sure these are closed. Otherwise, it's going to slide inside my loop, and that's not what I want. I want it on the outside of my two loops. So let's make sure that's happening. Here we go. I just want it to rest outside my loops. Let's go to the other side and do the same thing. Make sure that they're not crossed over, that they're side by side. This one's a little twisty. I'm going to fix that because it's not following the curve of the bracelet, which is what I want. I want it to follow the curve of the wire. So I'm just going to twist that. There we go. Grab my other piece of wire. Slide my wire in between the pliers. Make sure that that little tip isn't sticking out and make a loop. Lots of loops. Okay, bend that back so it's a little lollipop. There we go. Slide that in the other side that doesn't already have a wire in there. Slide that through the two loops. Cut the straight end down to 1/2 inch. Hold on to everything so it doesn't get away from you. Get back up there. It's trying to get away. Of course, if it does fall out, you just put it back in. Very simple. Slide that back in there through both loops. And make another loop on the other side. There we go. Nice loop on the other side of my little loop at the end of the memory wire. There we go. Make sure it's closed, nice and snug. Yes. So now this isn't flopping around. It's nice and secure. But now you're looking at that going, oh, that's not very pretty. No, it isn't. So what are we going to do? We're going to make a cage to go on there. Let's make a little dangle. A nice little dangle to go on each end and just hang down and look pretty. How are we going to do that, you ask? How? We're going to take another piece of wire. This time I'm going to grab 6 inches. 6 inches of wire. I'm going to make a bead cage. I'm going to move my little board out of the way because I don't need that right now. And I'm going to grab my round nose pliers. I'm going to put my wire in between the pliers just past the tip maybe an eighth of an inch at the most. Make sure the tip isn't sticking out the back. And I'm going to make a little loop, just a little one. There we go. And then once I have the tip touching the rest of the wire, I'm going to keep going just a little bit further, just like that. And I'm going to switch to my flat pliers, and I'm going to continue to coil the wire around itself. So the wire is, there's my first loop. The second loop is going right beside it, not on top of it, not under it, but right beside it. Okay, and there's another loop. So I have 1, 2 spirals so far. Let's move, give myself another row. And I count my little rows from the tip. So there's the tip, 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows. Let me give it another half of a row. So my wrapping wire is right across from the tip. And then I'm going to switch to the other side. Okay, so I'm going to grab my round nose pliers again, slide that wire about an eighth of an inch from the tip, and I'm going to keep this going in the same direction. So I'm going to make my loops the same direction as the first one. There. And I grab that little tip, make a loop. Here we go. Continue just a little past the tip and switch to my square pliers. And I see people trying to do it with the tip of the square pliers, but you don't have much purchase here. I mean, it's very wiggly. So you're better off going a little bit further back where you have a better grip. Because when I go back here, the wire doesn't move. And this is very soft wire, so you don't really have to strangle it or squeeze it too tightly, just enough to hold it in place while you make your spirals. Okay, so I have 3 rows so far. 1, 2, 3. Yes. Let's continue till I have another. I think I did 3.5 on that side. Yes, there we go. So I'm going to continue because I want to get rid of this space in here. So I'm going to keep going until I have 4 rows from the tip. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Go to the other side. I have 3.5 here. Give it another half a row till I have my 4. Yes, almost there. Let's give it another turn on this side and then switch to the other side and give it a turn. Yes, nice. And now what I want to do is roll these together. I'm just going to roll the little wires, the little spirals together, one on top of the other. Until they're, well, until they're one on top of the other. Okay. Almost. And then when you get to the point where you can't really do it with your pliers anymore, you can switch to your fingers. Just using the little right there on the side. And then push it over until the wires are one on top of the other. So there I have that. There we go. So now I'm going to take my round nose pliers. I'm going to poke it right down inside the top loop, just right in there. And I'm going to start pulling the little rungs apart a little at a time, very, very carefully, because I don't want to completely undo my spiral. So I start down at the bottom and hold on to the other rungs with my fingers so that I can just scoot it around and pull these apart a little bit at a time, just a little at a time. Not too fast, don't pull too hard. There we go. So that's one side. And let's go to the other side and do the same thing. I always go across from the tip with my pliers. There's the tip over there. I put my pliers over here, right inside the loop, and just pull one rung at a time. Don't rush. There's no reason to rush. There we go. Until I have a nice little cage. There. Nice. And then I can switch to my fingers and just kind of adjust it the way I want. If it's too far apart, the little rungs are too far apart, my little bars, I can just adjust it a little bit at a time. So there's my little cage. Nice. Isn't that cute? So now I'm going to put some beads in it because I want it to look pretty. So I'm just going to separate right in the center there, just separate it just enough so that I can pop some beads in there, some of my seed beads. And I'm just going to put one of each color just for something nice and colorful to dangle from the ends of my bracelet. There we go. So once I've stuffed those in there, I'm going to close it back up. You can close it with your fingers, you can close it with your pliers. Either one works. It's very soft wire, so it will conform to what you tell it to do. And there's my little cage. Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute? My little cages. I decided to put one in each ring. So now, how do we attach that, you ask? You're going to go down here to one of the rings on one end, right there across from where my little tip is. There's my tip. I'm going to go to the other side with my round nose pliers, and I'm just going to give this a twist. I'm going to twist it up, and this is lifted enough so that I can really get in there nice and easily. And I'm holding on to the second set of rings while I twist the first set up towards the ceiling. So now I have a loop on top that I can use to connect with my bracelet. All right. So I'm going to take one of the little bars that I put through my two rings of my bracelet. I'm going to open it up. To move everything out of the way there. I'm going to just twist the loop open to the side. Slide on one of my cages and twist it closed again. Close that back up. Make sure it's completely closed. And there aren't any openings. Nice and snug. There we go. Go to the other side and do the same thing on this side. Just twist it open. Slide in my little ring of my cage and twist it closed again. Make sure it's completely closed. No openings. And there's one set of dangles. Let's go to the other side and do the same thing. My alarm's about to go off and I don't want it to, so I'm going to fix that. There we go. Now it won't bother me and say, you're supposed to be finished by now. I just need a few more minutes. Okay, let's go down here and find my, ooh, yeah, there we go. Find my little ring, open it up, slide on my dangle in the little loop that I opened at the top and twist it closed again. And make sure it's completely closed. On. Completely closed here. I do not want my dangle to fall off because I like it much too much. Take your time. There's no rush, at least not for me. Make sure that's closed. Yes. Go to the other side. Twist open my loop. Slide on my last little dangle and twist it closed. And make sure it's nice and tight. And there we have it. There is my nice little mini cup with dangles. Lots and lots of dangles. There it is. There it is. There it is. And all you do is pop it on your arm, and you can keep these on the bottom if you want to. If you want to just have them resting down there underneath your arm, or you can turn it over so that they are the main attraction. Isn't that neat? Cute, cute, cute. There it is. What could be simpler? And certainly colorful. Wow. I love these little bars. I love these little bars. They're just perfect for making it possible for me to have a bangle instead of wrapping the memory wire around, which is what we usually do. But this just makes it easy for me to have a pattern that I can repeat on both wires. Kind of the only time you can get it to do that, and I didn't even do it. I flipped it, flipped it so that my patterns were backing up to each other instead of on either side instead of matching each wire because that's what I wanted to do. But there is our piece for the day. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you will make one for yourself because this has been a lot of fun. There it is, folks. There's our piece for the day. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a very, very nice Juneteenth. And I hope that you'll make one of these because it is a lot of fun. And school's out, and I think anybody can make this. Um, So you can have fun doing this with your kids or your grandkids or whoever you want to make it with. Isn't that neat? And you can do it with any colors you want. You don't have to use the colors that I use. I did it for Juneteenth, and so I went with the traditional colors. So and look them up. Look up the colors. See what they mean if you don't know already. It's a good learning moment. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you'll make one of these bracelets.
Hi there. It's
That's my phone telling me to wrap it up. I hope that you'll make one of these bracelets because they're just so colorful and just I think they just really liven up any outfit. And they're easy to make. Anybody can make them. So I hope that you had fun today. If those of you who followed along, I hope that you'll come back for more. And I hope that you'll get in touch with me. Let me know what you would like to see me do because I really love to hear from you. The information on where you can get in touch with me is right down there in the description. There's the Jewelry Gen email that you can send me comments and questions and pictures. You can send pictures and comments to the DeKalb County Library Facebook page. That's also listed. And you're right here on YouTube already, so you know how to get here and you can leave me comments here. So until next time, have a great week wherever you are in the week. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you later. Bye bye.